Greetings, everyone. This is Sistah Crystal here with Let's Talk Classic Hip Hop, back with another review of Growing Up Hip Hop. This is season 4, episode 6, entitled A Ninja in the Shadows. And let's get to it. First of all, I do want to give a little kind of disclaimer on how I do my reviews. Now, I don't go straight in order of the show. I do a review, but I go in order of what I find the highlights and the relevant portions of the show. So that's how I do it. So if you hopefully if you decide you want to watch it after hearing my review, I greatly appreciate it if you wasn't considering it before. But just know that I don't follow straight in the way that it airs on TV. Okay, so the first up so this episode you see Master P. There's a scene with Master P talking to his son, Little Romeo. And I absolutely love his relationship with his son, father-son relationship, and the way that, he talks like straight talk with his son. I absolutely love that. But he's talking with his son and sharing with him the news that he had received that his brother, C. Murder, is his brother and it's Little Romeo's uncle, C. Murder, who is currently facing life in prison at the Louisiana State Penitentiary, that he received a call stating that his brother is in a hunger strike. Now, at the time that this show was recorded, he had said he had been on a hunger strike for about 4 or 5 days, and they were just concerned about his health and everything. And for those who don't know what a hunger strike is basically when you are in prison and someone's in prison and they are trying to make a political statement about the conditions inside the prison. So they do that by refusing food or drink or both, to kind of make a statement about the treatment in the prison, and or they could be doing it for their personal case, that maybe they have been wronged and they're innocent, or maybe they did do the crime but they were overly prosecuted. And you have a lot of cases like that currently in our criminal injustice system. But anywho, so Master P's telling Romeo that he's planning on he wants to take a trip to the to the Louisiana State Penitentiary where his brother C. Murder is, to check on him, on his health, and see what's going on and to give him some support. And also a little sidebar, it was just revealed like about a week ago that one of the main witnesses in the case against C. Murder came out and said that his testimony was coerced by police and other officials, that he was pressured into pointing the finger at C. Murder for the death of the 16-year-old. So from what I know, back in 2002 or 2003, inside a club in Louisiana, a 16-year-old boy was killed in a nightclub where someone had shot a gun or something in the air, something like that, and the bullet came and ricocheted down and hit the 16-year-old boy. And this witness that's come out last week stating that and C. Murder has already spent 10 years in prison, or about 10 years in prison or more. He's come out and said that he was coerced into IDing and saying that C. Murder was the one that pulled the trigger, when in fact he didn't see C. Murder pull the trigger. And so now it's I guess they're coming to, they want to decide if they're going to do a retrial or are they going to free C Murder, because if he's in there based on faulty testimony, you know, the right thing to do would either be a new trial or, to just free him, free him free and clear. And I also want to say my condolences for the family of the 16-year-old. We don't want to forget about them in this case either. But in any case, we really don't want to have innocent people behind bars. And if it's in fact true that C Murder did not pull the trigger that killed this 16-year-old boy, in fact, he should be freed. And that's my humble opinion, but we'll see what happens. So at the end of this episode, you see Master P. He arrives at the penitentiary with his family, including Silk the Shocker, his younger brother. He has a sister named Germany, and his father was there. His father looked pretty good. I don't know how old his father is, but he looks pretty good. And he also had a representative from the NAACP and some other family members that all took this bus trip up to the penitentiary. So it's my guess that the next episode coming up, you may see more about what happened with C Murder. I'm sorry, not C Murder, but Master P's visit to see his brother C Murder. And Master P also stated that he and his brother have kind of a strained relationship. And he also shared that he wasn't even sure if his brother would even want to see him, but he's going anyway just to lend his support. And, I think that's noble of him. That's what, that's what family is for. So be on the lookout for that. Okay, so the next scene. So actually, this is the first scene. So you see Boogie. So Boogie, in the last episode, he ended up going to rehab, and so now you, when the show opens up, you see Boogie. He's in the rehab, and he's smoking on something, some kind of cigarette, and I'm just looking like, what type of rehabilitation place where you can smoke cigarettes and you're free to call your friends? And he called they showed him calling a few friends, including Romeo and Christina. And I know of some rehab places where part of the rehab is you are closed off for at least 30 days, which means you cannot call friends. You definitely aren't smoking anything, and you're just really detoxing from a lot of whatever you was doing from the outside world. So it is kind of interesting to me to see him in the opening scene smoking on something. I don't know if that's is that an e-cigarette or, what is that? And I imagine that's it. I shouldn't assume, but I'm hoping it's just a regular cigarette that he's smoking. But I still think it's kind of defeating the purpose a little bit if they're allowing them to have cigarettes in there. But I don't know. Maybe it's just they'll let them have a cigarette, for a little bit and, take it away or whatever. But I just found that to be interesting. And one of the friends that he called, okay, so I mentioned Christina. So Christina has said she is having a what do you call that? A residency in Las Vegas. So she's preparing to move away, I guess, from where they're shooting whatever to do the residency in Las Vegas. And I kind of wanted to note that too, because my favorite group, Salt and Pepper, from what I heard, they also are supposed to be doing some kind of residency coming up sometime this year, like in September or October. So yay for them. And also, from my understanding, I think Salt and Pepper are the first rappers to have a residency in Las Vegas, and a residency, it's where I guess you stay there and you perform in Las Vegas. And back in the day, the only people you heard that had residencies in Las Vegas were people like, Wayne Newton and, the old time stars. But now it's getting to be becoming a good thing. One of the people that made it kind of popular, I believe, was Celine Dion. She had her Las Vegas residency at the height of her career. So, that's something good for artists to do. And it's another way for artists to connect with their fans. So great for them and great for Christina. So, okay. So the next scene is, okay, so Vanessa, JoJo, and Angela. Okay, so picking up from last week, we know that Vanessa and Angela kind of had their little blow up about Angela coming in and telling Vanessa that she's not going to be able to do the partnership with her on their mommy blog because she decided to accept a partnership with the Coogee brand. Well, this scene, it looks like JoJo has brought them two together to try to talk out their differences or what have you. And first of all, when the scene opens up, you see JoJo and Angela, and they look like they're waiting for Vanessa. So Vanessa shows up late. Okay, so she comes in, and I already know how it was going to turn out. It wasn't going to turn out good. But one of the things that Vanessa said, she goes, well, I have the feeling that Vanessa's starting to come to terms that maybe she won't be able to do the partnership with her sister. So she asked, Vanessa asked, what's her name? Angela, if it's okay if she would go ahead and do their mommy blog by herself. And Angela just explodes. She's like, nah, you can't do the mommy blog by yourself because I had input into it too. So my first question is, okay, they keep talking about a mommy blog. First of all, what the heck is that? So when I think of a blog, I just think of like back in the days of old school internet where you had just and I'm telling my age, but you just had like message boards, like back in the Black Planet and YouTube messenger days, if you remember that, and you would post things on these little message boards. So when I hear them say mommy blog, I'm not really sure what that is. If that's just a web page talking about motherhood stuff or what. Anyway, my thought was Vanessa, and I'm gonna say this like I'm actually her friend and I'm talking to her. Okay, Vanessa. Why in the world are you asking your sister Angela, can you go ahead and do the mommy blog by yourself? First of all, as they say, it's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission. Again, it's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission. If you want to do that mommy blog, go ahead and do it. Okay? Go ahead and do it. You don't have to ask. That's just my humble opinion. You were a mother before Angela ever became a mother. And from my understanding, I don't know if Vanessa had the mommy blog first and added her sister on or whatever. But I just find it really kind of selfish of Angela to, one, she's going to go with Coogee, which that's fine. But then it's like she's stopping or wanting to stop her sister from doing anything with the mommy blog. And it's like, you doing too much. But my I don't like to say I'm giving people advice, because people are gonna do what they're gonna do anyway. But honey, Vanessa, just go ahead and do it, and let the chips fall where they may. You shouldn't even ask her. Don't ask her anything. And then the scene cuts where Angela getting up and walking out. It should have been Vanessa getting up and walking out. Vanessa was the last to show up, and she should have been the first to leave. Like, honey, bye. Even though that's her sister, it's like, But anyway, so we'll see more about that. So the next scene, okay. So let's see. Okay. So the next scene is we're at Pep's house. So it opens up with Pep's daughter Egypt with her boyfriend Sam, and she's Egypt is playing a little thing on the piano, and I'm familiar with what she's playing. It's some kind of classical piece that she's playing. So she's just kind of playing around on the computer, on the piano a little bit. It sounds pretty all right. And then Pep walks in, and she walks in, and of course she's got a drink in her hand. And Egypt looks at her mom, and she goes, "Hey, be careful with that drink." And Pep is like, "Well, I'm not gonna spill this drink." But anyway, so they start talking about the upcoming arrival of Pep's son. And for a lot of people that don't know, I'm surprised that there are a lot of people out there that do not know that Pep has a son, but is fans of a certain age like me always knew that Pep had a son. But anywho, so they're talking about the arrival of their son, and they're both really excited. And Pep mentioned about possibly throwing a party for the arrival of her son. Now, my understanding from in the show, they said Pep's son Tyran, he lives in New Jersey, and they all lived in New Jersey at one point, and then Pep and Egypt, they moved to California, and he stayed in New Jersey. So he's coming to visit the family, and he particularly wants to visit with his mom. He really hasn't spent a lot of time with his mom. So they're talking about that, some possibly having a party. In the midst of that, I don't know how the conversation got to, okay. So the conversation got to, who will they invite to the party? And they ran down all the people that they might invite. And then they mentioned Boogie. And Sam was like, or one of them was like, "Oh, well, nah, we can't invite Boogie because he's in rehab. So, okay, who else can have that slot, since Boogie can't come?" And then Sam kind of jokingly, I guess he was joking, he was like, "Well, why don't we invite Annabelle's sister?" Now, on the piano, they were sitting at a piano. So there is this doll, and she looks kind of beautiful and creepy at the same time. So it's this beautiful, creepy doll that's sitting on this piano in Pep's house. And Pep was like, "Oh, you mean Magdalene," or something like that. And Egypt goes, "Well, yeah, what did she say?" So they started having a conversation about this movie called The Conjuring, and it's another movie called Annabelle. And Egypt was saying like, "Oh, well," she pretty much was saying like, don't play around with that, because she saw this movie called The Conjuring and a movie called Annabelle. And this movie is about a doll that's like possessed with some spirit of a demon or something like that. And so Pep, she's standing there with this doll, and she's, fixing the clothes and just touching it real gentle, like it's a little baby. And then she picks it up, and Egypt was like, well, you shouldn't be touching that doll like that, because if you hold the doll, the evil spirit is gonna jump in you. Now, okay, so I'm gonna give a little backstory. So, I'm the type of person, I like doing research. So I went back, and the movie called The Conjuring, I've heard of it before, but I haven't watched it. I really do not like horror films. So from what I know, from what I understand, it's a horror movie. And The Conjuring is about a family that moves into this farmhouse, and allegedly there's the farmhouse was built on top of either a family was killed or something like that. And the house is supposed to be possessed with ghosts and evil spirits. And there, okay, so flashback to, I think, season 3. When Pep had moved in her house, she had some kind of ghost whisperer come to the house and see if there's some kind of ghost or something in the house. And the ghost whisperer said that, well, it seemed like her house is haunted or whatever. And so I'm jumping back around. So Egypt was talking about this doll that Pep has on the piano, talking about it's possessed or whatever. And so Pep playfully throws the doll at her. She was a mess. So she threw the doll at her while she's still holding on to her drink. She didn't drop her drink or anything. It was, I don't know, it was just kind of cute. But while I was reading some of the information on this Annabelle, actually Annabelle is partly based on a true story. So sidebar. So Annabelle is about a family bought a doll back in the late 1960s, early 1970s, and it was allegedly supposed to have been possessed by the spirit of a 7-year-old girl that was murdered named Annabelle. And the people who end up finding the doll, they ended up having some kind of seance or some medium come and talk to them about what was going on with the doll, because the doll would end up in different positions and stuff in the house. Now, this is supposed to be partly a true story. And come to find out, what was it? The doll was a gift from a mother to her daughter. And once they found out some 7-year-old girl was killed or whatever, they wanted to keep the doll, to have the spirit of the girl in the doll, to honor the girl or something like that. But come to find out that the spirit wasn't that of a little girl. It was that of a demon pretending to be a little girl. So the doll was possessed. And really, in real life, there's actually a museum with this Annabelle doll. And the true Annabelle doll is just a little Raggedy Ann doll. It doesn't look scary and creepy like the movie. But this little Raggedy Ann doll is supposed to be possessed, and it's so much so that if you touch it, the spirit can go inside of you. And also, if you try to destroy it, like if you try to throw it in a fire to get rid of it, all it's going to do is the spirit is going to leave the doll and jump into something else. So it's supposed to jump into a person or an animal or anything that's nearby. So this Annabelle doll, and the doll, I guess Pep had, Magdalene or whatever, they were just playing around like it's supposed to be some kind of possessed doll. So in other words, you can't destroy it. You can't do anything with it, because if you try to destroy it, then the demons is going to leave the doll and jump into something else. So the best thing to do is to leave the doll alone. Don't touch it. Don't do anything to it, so that the demons can stay in that doll, whatever. So anyway, I went off on that. But so yeah, so the next one is, okay, so we're going to fast forward to the party. No, right before the party. Okay, so the son shows up at Pep's house, and right away Pep is like, hey, love you, son. They hug and everything, very happy to see each other. And she tells him, hey, I gotta go on a date. I love you, son. Great to see you, but I got to go on a date. And he's looking like, okay, I'm, why am I not surprised? And really that is kind of sad, because it's like, oh, he didn't seem to really be surprised that his mom talking about she has to go on a date, and he just got there and he's really there to really try to spend time with her. But anyway, so she goes on a date, and and sidebar, it is speculation about what date Pep was going on or whatever. But like I said in a previous show, this is not a messy channel, so I'm not trying to get messy. Pep says she's just getting her groove on, so grown lady getting her groove on. Okay, so fast forward, they end up having the party at Egypt's house. Egypt has a little apartment with the little boyfriend. So they invited everybody. Christiania actually comes by, and she leaves real quick because she says she doesn't want to run into Brianna, because the issues that they had before, and she's afraid that she don't want to catch no case running into Brianna, and with her kind of aggressive behavior. So she came real quick and left. And they brought some new people in. They had little Easy E, real cute. He looked just like his father. Who else they had? JoJo came through. I'm trying to think. So I'm wondering if this is a indication if Little Easy is gonna come up in the next season or something like that. So I don't know. We just be on the lookout for that to see if they're gonna bring in some more children. Because like I said, most of the children on the show are boring. They are boring. So anytime they can bring some new people in, and hopefully that so that the show won't be boring, that's always a great thing. But anyhow, so then Brianna shows up, and we find out that Brianna and Little Easy E have a little past. They used to mess around. And JoJo, I really like JoJo. So JoJo's joking around with Little Easy E, and it's like, hey, you was knocking those boots. You was knocking the boots back in the day. And he's like, yeah. And the way they were talking about it, both Little Easy E and Brianna, the way they were talking about it sounded like it was just fling. It didn't sound like they were in any type of real relationship or anything. So it's like, okay. But so I don't know if they're gonna be trying to rekindle that, if they was messing around or whatever. But I also wanted to say with JoJo, I hope we see more of him too. I think he brings great energy to the show, and I really like the fact that his personality reminds me a lot of his father, Reverend Run. I remember when they had their show Run's House. I absolutely loved that show. I love that show so much. I wanted them to adopt me, my big grown A. I just liked I just liked their chemistry with the whole family and the wife and all that. And that was an example of a reality TV show that wasn't ratchet. All these reality shows, they don't have to be ratchet. You don't have to be fighting and all at people's throats to have a great show. And I really hate that they, get rid of good shows that's, good quality shows. The same thing with I could say the same thing with the Salt and Pepper show. Their show showed the importance of sisterhood and working together with other women, because a lot of times, in this society, and I'm kind of going off on a tangent, I'm sorry, but a lot of times in this society, they make it cool for women to not like each other. They make it cool for women to be at each other's throats, and there's no need for it. And with the Salt and Pepper show, it showed how, women had two women that had a friendship first. Then they went into a partnership, and then, because of life or what have you, they had their differences and broke up. But one interesting thing about that show is they ended up going to counseling for their friendship. And I had never thought about having counseling for a friendship. When you think of counseling, you think of couples, romantic couples and stuff like that. You don't think of your friends. But I just thought that show really highlighted the importance of, having a good partnership, whether it's romantic or if it's a friendship or it's a partnership, to really cultivate and positively nurture your relationships in that manner. So that was another reality show that I thought was a good quality show. It wasn't, necessarily ratchet. And, I think it's room for great quality programming. But anywho, so I said all that to say I really like JoJo. So he's another person I hope to see more of. So all the children won't be so boring. I just like his personality. So little Easy E, hopefully they can bring him back and see what's going on with him. JoJo, I don't know what happened with TJ, Jam Master Jay's son. And, I'm not sure what happened with him. But anywho, so okay. So Brianna, so she's at the party, and the purpose of Egypt said she invited Brianna really it looked like just about half of the people at the party Brianna had already gotten into it with, including Pep. So Egypt's thought was, if she get Brianna there, that would give Brianna the opportunity to go on her apology tour and kind of talk to everybody and really kind of get to an understanding and, let bygones be bygones or whatever. Well, obviously that didn't happen. And she did have a little talk. They showed her Brianna talking with Pep, and they both, what I got out of it was they both came to the understanding that they both care about the same person, which is Boogie. And them two, they can put their differences aside or whatever and keep it moving. So I kind of had a feeling that it wasn't like a kumbaya moment between them two. It was just kind of like, it is what it is. We both care about the same person, and let's just keep it moving from there. But okay, so after that, they cut back to the scene. So they're at the party, they have the food, and there was this cake. So TT, Peppa's niece, so she goes and pick up the cake, and the cake is like some Oreo cake. It looked like some cake that they just picked up real quick from like Buskin Bakery or some little bakery. And also Buskin Bakery is not endorsing the show. I just kind of threw that out there. Some other bakery or whatever. But anyway, so she gets this cake, and she's getting ready to give it to Tyran. And Pep, being Pep, she goes and stops TT from giving her son the cake. She goes, well, this is Egypt's party, and Egypt should be the one to give him the cake and all that. So she goes to try to take the cake from TT and end up dropping the daggone thing on the floor. So, and anyway. So, okay. What was I about to say? Okay, so the daggone cake falls on the floor, and then I am skipping around. Okay, so I wanted to say more about Tyran. So Tyran, nice young man. He seemed like he has his head on his shoulders. Okay, so there was another scene where Tyran meets up with Sam, Egypt's boyfriend, and he just kind of talked to him and everything. And he's pretty much like, hey, what's your intentions with my sister? And at first, Sam was just kind of like vague with his answers, like, hey, I'm not trying to hurt her or something he was saying. But Tyran wouldn't let up. He was like, "What is your intention with my sister?" And he was like, "Hey, I don't care what you do, just don't get her in trouble." And he had said it a couple times. And we know what he meant by saying don't get his sister in trouble. In other words, Negro, don't get my sister pregnant. But unfortunately, as long as they're together, the longer they're together, she gonna get in trouble. Okay. But so one thing about him, so what I'm learning about him is he in real life or whatever, he does some kind of karate. I don't know if he owns a karate studio or if he runs it, but he's like a major black belt or something like that in New Jersey. And so they nicknamed him Blackie Chance because he knows how to do karate and I guess Tai Chi and some of that other stuff. But while I was doing the research for this video, I'm trying to find more information on Tyran. You know, what I know, he was born in 1990. I believe July of 1990, but they don't have an exact birth date for him. And also, Pep. Pep was actually pregnant with Tyran in the video. The what's the name of that video? The Expression video. I remember reading an article years ago when Pep was saying that she was pregnant while filming that Express Yourself video. So Tyran was in the video. He was in her belly. But anyway, so I was trying to find more information about him. Couldn't really find that much, but I found some information about his father. Now, his biological father. Now, as people may know, Tretch from Naughty by Nature pretty much helped raise this young man, and he sort of adopted him. He considers Tyran to be his son, and in all purposes, he is his son because he helped raise him. It's not always about the biological. It's who takes the time to be there for you and all that kind of stuff. I don't know what the situation was with Tyran's biological father, but my understanding, he really wasn't around or whatever. But from what I've read, his name is Tyran Moore Sr. So Tyran is a junior. His father is senior, and I'll just say, his father seems like one scary dude, for lack of a better way to put it. From what I've read, this Tyran Moore allegedly has some ties to the Kenneth Supreme team. The Supreme team, they were a big, like, what do you call that, drug cartel back in the 1980s. And he supposedly has some affiliation with them. And he also was accused of some other stuff, drug related stuff or whatever. The last thing I read was allegedly Tyran Moore was a part of some 2-hour standoff where he was allegedly holding some people hostage or something. This was back in 2003, but he eventually left out with no incident. No one got hurt, but so this guy's now allegedly, and I'm getting it from an article, from 2003 article, but this Tyran Moore, he the father, he sounds like somebody that you're like, I don't know, you might have to have a restraining order or something on this dude. He just seems very scary. So wherever he's at, he's there, and hopefully he's okay and all that stuff. I don't know how I got on that. Oh yeah, I know how I got on that. I was just wanting to learn more about his father. Mainly because I am surprised that so many people did not know that Pep had a son. Yes, Pep has a son. Maybe because he was born so long ago, or whatever, but I hope to see more of him. This young man seems like a nice young man, and you know, your children can come through you, they come to you, but they are not you. And this young man seems to have a great head on his shoulders. He seems to have the maturity that his sister needs to kind of have somebody look after her and kind of help her. Oh, and there was another scene too where he was talking to his sister, and the sister was telling him about her boyfriend, and she was saying how her boyfriend's a rapper and he has two children by two different women. And so Tyran was like, okay, so your boyfriend is unemployed with two baby mamas. And I'm like, oh, okay. He did no holds barred. He just laid it out there. But for me, and I'm just having, my humble opinion, if it was my 19-year-old child, you could not talk to my 19-year-old child for 2 seconds with two children and two baby mamas. That's all I'm saying. That's just me. I mean, 19 is really young, and it's a lot to kind of get into a relationship with somebody that already has children, different households, different personalities. I'm not, children are beautiful, children are wonderful, children are blessings, but just realistically, that is a lot to take on as a 19-year-old. There are plenty of people out here that don't have all that going on, but oh well, whatever. So, and then he even said, he was like, well, does mom know about this? And she was like, yeah. And he was like, well, I should have figured she'd be all right with something like that. He didn't say it like that, but his expression was kind of like, oh, okay. Yeah, I could see, her parenting style is that she will let the child make their mistakes, go out there and make their own mistakes, and I get it. But for me, I guess you can call me kind of a helicopter parent a little bit. For me, my thing is let other people make the mistakes. You don't have to make all the mistakes. Let somebody else make those mistakes, because sometimes, no matter how young you are, some mistakes you just can't come back from, So anyway, so to wrap up this episode, Master P goes to visit C Murder in prison. And Pep has a son, comes to visit her. I think we might see some more about that later on. And Boogie is still in rehab, and we'll see more about that. So that's it. This has been Sistah Crystal with Let's Talk Classic Hip Hop. And like, comment, subscribe. I greatly appreciate you all. And until next time, take care.